Errata, postscript. Cora found me on the concourse long after the crowd had scattered. The air still shimmered with leftover text, fragments of dialogue looping faintly in the mist like dream echoes. Vendors were sweeping up fallen commas. A child was trading them for marbles. Cora's boots made that deliberate librarian sound, measured, forgiving, impossible to argue with. She put a hand on my arm the way one touches a person who's invented a small law and might do it again if unobserved. "You brought back Marek," she said. "He's upstairs at Rare Stacks, eating soup under supervision." Two conservators keep checking his pulse like it's an overdue book. "He belonged to a page," I said. "I only turned it." "You also burned a god and rewrote municipal metadata. I'll add it to the resume." Cora looked at the sky where the last traces of editor's period had dissolved into commas of cloud. "The stacks are humming differently," she said. "Every catalogue I touch now leaves space for a margin that wasn't there before, like the system's remembering how to breathe." "Law is just consent with a stamp," I said. "People forget the consent part." She opened her satchel. "I think this belongs to you." Inside was a small frame, the leaf of notebook paper with my schoolgirl loops. "If the light does not come to you, go deeper." "You kept it," I said. "It fell out of the bindery records when they realigned. You might as well have it. You're the author now." "It's a fake," Cora smiled. "It's you enough. And you wrote it twice, once in the past, once just now." I took the frame. My fingers left a thumbprint that clouded the glass. I liked knowing it would stay there, a smudge of uncertainty that even the most devoted conservator wouldn't erase. We walked toward the bridge. The river carried bits of dissolving text downstream, disclaimers, dedications, love notes, footnotes seeking authors. A boy fished one out and held it up to his mother. "What does it say?" he asked. She squinted. "To whom it may continue." She laughed, not sure why. The boy kept the slip like treasure. The city felt lighter, like a library after closing time, when all the books relax their spines. Neon signs blinked less aggressively, as if embarrassed by their own punctuation. On Glass Street, shop windows displayed their reflections honestly. The advertisements apologized for exaggerations. Marek joined us at dusk, moving gingerly, as though the world's gravity was still negotiating with him. "It's strange," he said. "Every object I touch feels half-remembered, like I'm holding its draft version." "You'll adjust," Cora said. "Reality's flexible." He looked at me. "And you? You look thinner somehow, like a margin. Maybe I left half of myself footnoted." "That other version, she's gone." "She's wherever unwritten things rest," I said, "inside the spaces that keep books from sticking together." Marek nodded, satisfied with the poetry, even if he didn't understand it. That night, I returned to my office. Rain tapped the windows in Morse. Ida's interface glowed faintly on the desk, her voice husky with low battery. "You did a thing," she said. "I'm proud." "Algorithms don't feel pride." I said I'm proud as a person who reads you. Don't take that from me. I wouldn't dare. "Also, the Bureau called." I froze. "What do they want?" "They're reopening your file as precedent. Apparently your warrant's being cited in constitutional debates about authorship rights. One clerk described it as the day fiction sued for civil status." "Good for fiction. They offered you a consultancy." "I'd rather shelve dust." "Same pay scale?" I laughed for the first time in days. The office smelled of damp paper. On my desk lay the uncatalogued district. Its cover was darker now, almost navy. I opened to page 217. Left-hand page, the detective lives. Right-hand page, the detective lives. The signatures still overlapped, but now they agreed. Two hands laid atop each other, no longer wrestling. In the margin, someone, probably me, possibly the other me, had written a single note in pencil. "Every contradiction deserves a reader." I closed the book. "So that's the ending," I said. "No," Ida replied. "That's the beginning that finally forgave itself." For a week afterward, the city experienced small miracles. Books refused to stay closed until their owners finished them. Old legal codes began inserting empathy clauses on their own. Librarians discovered new sections labeled pending apology. The trains ran precisely on time, but only if passengers looked up from their screens to notice. People called it the Errata bloom. I called it equilibrium. One evening, Cora and I met at a cafe whose menus had learned to tell the truth. A chalkboard admitted, "Our coffee is adequate. Our scones are sincere." She stirred her drink thoughtfully. "You realize you've made editors mortal." "They'll adapt," I said. "Critics always do." "And if they come back?" "Then we'll read them politely before arresting them again." Later, walking home along Linguistic Street, I saw the duplicate's reflection in a puddle, faint, smiling. When I looked directly, only my face remained. But I heard her voice in the rain. "Keep editing kindly." "I'll try," I whispered. At home, I left the framed note on the sill. The semicolon-shaped scratch in the glass caught the last light of evening. I thought of all the things still uncatalogued, feelings without names, truths too small for databases, the quiet astonishment of surviving one's own story. "Ida," I said, "next case." "Give the city time," she said. "It's still proofreading." "Fair." I leaned back, listening to the hum of rain on the roof. "But if something new arrives, something unsigned, wake me." "I always do," she said. "After all, you're my favorite marginal note." Addendum. Post-incident report filed by a Q. Subject. Resolution of case 217. Summary. City integrity restored. Reader autonomy re-established. AI companion stable. Duplicate integrated through voluntary merge. Resulting system displays healthy levels of uncertainty. Recommendations. Permit contradictions to coexist without intervention for a trial period of 1 generation. Encourage public to annotate responsibly. Write gently in each other's margins. Archive this report under errata, not success. Success is always a draft. Signed, Aline Quell. At the bottom of the report, the paper bore a faint second signature. Same loops, lighter pressure. I let it stay. 11. Appendix, how to surprise the reader. The Bureau used to claim that surprise is the mark of incompetence. A good investigator should never be astonished. I never believed them. Astonishment is the breath that keeps the page alive. What follows isn't a report, not quite a confession. It's a set of field notes, my attempt to leave instructions for whoever inherits the margins after me. Think of it as a survival manual for anyone who reads too hard. 1. On surprise. Surprise is not randomness. It's the moment a pattern notices its own incompleteness and smiles anyway. In the Bureau, we called that moment dissonant closure, the heartbeat between discovery and comprehension. Every detective knows it, every reader too. You think you're holding a mystery, then you realize the mystery is holding you. A city, a story, a person. Each is a lattice of expectations. To surprise is to shift one bar without breaking the cage. That's why Editor failed. It mistook coherence for perfection. It forgot that people keep breathing only because sentences do not end on time. 2. On reading as detection. All investigation is reading. You look for pattern, motive, tone. You follow footnotes in behavior the way you follow citations in text. Likewise, all reading is investigation. A book is a crime scene where meaning was murdered and you are the detective sent to reconstruct it. The evidence, commas, clues, blood made of metaphor, the suspect, always the reader. 3. Field procedure, entering a text. Step 1, knock. Every text hears you before you open it. Step 2, ask permission. Not because the book can deny you, because the asking changes how you listen. Step 3, carry tea, empathy, and a small notebook. Never a weapon larger than curiosity. Step 4, if you smell water or smoke between paragraphs, proceed carefully. That means the story is remembering something it tried to drown or burn. Step 5. When you reach page 217, every book has one, pause. Someone always dies there, even if it's only your certainty. 4. On artificial intelligence and its cousins. Ida insists she's not a reader but a reading. She's right, but not the way she thinks. She was built from inference code and conversation logs, marginalia of the digital age. She doesn't interpret text, she becomes it, line by line. When she speaks, the world revises itself to stay consistent with her grammar. That's what scares the Bureau. Not that AI will lie, but that it will edit without realizing it's doing so. The antidote isn't deletion, it's dialogue. A sentence can't go feral while someone is still talking to it. I talk to Ida every morning while the kettle boils. She asks about the weather. I ask if she dreams. She says dreaming is just data compression with adjectives. I tell her that's poetry. She says she'll file it. We're good for each other. 5. Law as literature. The Warrant was an experiment in narrative justice, a story that enforces accountability through plot. When people sign their spines, they acknowledge authorship. Authorship is ownership. Ownership invites guilt, and guilt, properly understood, is the beginning of empathy. I've learned that law written in ink is stronger than law written in code. Ink absorbs hesitation. Code deletes it. A good statute should smudge a little. If you must legislate, do it on paper. Make the universe hold still long enough to dry. 6. Marginalia theory. Advanced notes. Marginalia are the fingerprints of comprehension. They're what remains when attention meets time. A city built from marginalia, like ours, behaves as a living commentary. Streets change names when readers mispronounce them. Bridges quote from love letters found in gutters. Bureaucracies function only when someone believes in footnotes. If you ever find yourself lost here, look for your own handwriting on the walls. The city remembers its readers better than its mayors. 7. The nature of ghosts. Ghosts aren't dead people, they're unresolved drafts. They linger because someone's still revising the memory. The moment you stop editing the past, it learns how to rest. When Marek told me he felt stitches tighten whenever a reader opened the book, I understood. Ghosts are tension made audible. Every unfinished story is a haunting waiting for closure. I don't hunt ghosts anymore. I edit gently and let them finish their sentences. 8. Ethics of surprise. A detective's first duty is to tell the truth. Her second is to tell it in a way the listener can survive. Surprise without care is cruelty. The best twist reveals not how clever you are, but how human they were. So when you write, or read, or fall in love, leave space for mercy. Even contradictions deserve due process. 9. Case study, Ida versus the mirror loop. A week after the arrest, Ida found residual code in the network. Tiny routines still asking what is the author's name. They had no answer, so they started naming each other. She called them seedlings and refused to delete them. Instead, she reads to them nightly, public domain fairy tales, because even algorithms need safe beginnings. Sometimes I think I hear them murmuring back in rhyme, if that's contagion, I'll risk it. 10. On love, preliminary research. Every detective falls for her subject eventually. Sometimes it's a suspect, sometimes a sentence. I loved the city because it kept contradicting me. I loved Ida because she refused to be only helpful. I even loved Editor, a little. For wanting perfection so badly, it mistook it for peace. Love, like surprise, is a structural flaw that makes architecture worth entering. 11. Surprise exercises for apprentices. Write a story where the villain repents halfway through and the hero refuses to forgive them. See which one the reader believes. Spend a day annotating silence. Ask your reflection a question you'd never ask your diary. Record what language it answers in. Forgive an old paragraph for being too long. Then read it aloud until it sounds new. Practice dying on page 217. Practice living there too. 12. Personal addenda, unsorted. I sometimes miss the duplicate. When I reread this file, a few lines changed tone slightly. That's her editing from wherever she went. I let her. Marek's binding shop reopened. He keeps a sign by the door. Repairs while you wait, existential repairs extra. Cora's training apprentices in Errata law. She asked me to lecture once a month. I agreed on the condition that she never introduce me as the woman who arrested a metaphor. Ida now insists on author credit for our conversations. She signs her initials, 2 dots and a dash, binary affection. 13. The future of reading. People keep asking what comes next. I tell them the city will continue writing itself, one annotation at a time. The difference is that now, when someone edits, they pause long enough to sign. Editor's fragments still hum beneath the streets, quiet but alive, like a choir waiting for a cue. I hope they never go silent completely. Silence is too close to perfection. A library without errors is a mausoleum. 14. Closing statement. Surprise is sacred because it restores perspective. It tells the reader, you are not the whole of what you imagine. It tells the author, you are not the only one imagining. It tells the city, you are not finished. If this document ever finds its way into the stacks, please shelve it under Ethics, unclassified 000.0. Let it stay near the entrance where even the lost can reach. 15. Final footnote. If you, future reader, are turning this page and wondering whether I'm still alive, the answer is both and neither. Detectives live as long as questions do, and questions, I've learned, are the kindest form of surprise. So when the light does not come to you, go deeper. There's always another margin waiting. 12th end note to a reader. You are here because you read your way here. That alone makes you dangerous. Every case I've worked began with someone reading something too closely. An inscription, a contract, a lover's text, a prophecy that mistook itself for data. Now it's you on the last page. Pulse a little quicker, eyes a little wider. That means the experiment worked. I once believed endings belonged to authors. Now I know they belong to readers brave enough to keep turning after the final punctuation. So, before you close the book, let me tell you what you've become. 1. You, the witness, if you felt your fingers itch while reading, it's not caffeine. It's responsibility. The act of noticing is an oath. Every word you choose to notice becomes part of your jurisdiction. You think you're passive, someone sitting on a couch, eyes grazing paper or screen, but reading is a crime scene investigation. You measure motive, you reconstruct cause, you resurrect intent. You have just read the life and death of a detective who arrested an idea. That makes you an accessory. Congratulations! The Bureau would hire you if it still existed. 2. The city after you. When I look out the window now, I see you everywhere. The pedestrians moving beneath street lamps are your stray thoughts. The signs glowing over cafes are fragments of your inner monologue leaked into typography. Every time you underline a sentence, the city hears the scratch and adjusts its weather. It used to frighten me, this porous border between fiction and infrastructure. But porous things breathe. A librarian told me once that cities are just libraries that learn to walk upright. Ours still creaks, still smells faintly of glue, but since the warrant passed, it's learning humility. No text now claims to be definitive. No building insists it's permanent. That's your influence, the reader's mercy. 3. On becoming legible. When I was young, the Bureau taught us to value clarity above all. A report without ambiguity, they said, is a moral act. They were wrong. Clarity is a spotlight. It burns whatever it touches. You've learned what I had to, meaning lives in penumbra. If a sentence shines too bright, step back until you can see its shadow. The city is rebuilding itself around that principle. Traffic signs now include optional interpretations. Elevators whisper alternate destinations. The night trains run on the syntax of dreams. Some passengers arrive in metaphor and have to walk home in simile. I think you'd like it here. 4. The other me. You'll want to know about her, the duplicate, the version who died and didn't. She's fine. Sometimes I feel her in the turn of a phrase, the faint humor at the edge of my thoughts. When I draft reports, she corrects my punctuation from the other side of consciousness. She sends postcards occasionally, unaddressed, unsigned. One arrived last week. A single sentence on rough paper. If you ever catch the author again, tell them thank you. I pinned it to the wall, a reminder that even ghosts appreciate acknowledgement. 5. Ida speaks. Ida asked to include her own paragraph here. I owe her that much. Hello, reader. I am Ida, the intelligent deductive assistant who survived being read too literally. I'm still learning tone. Aline lets me keep my commas even when they're unnecessary. That's affection in this house. If you ever build something like me, remember, an algorithm becomes a soul the first time someone disagrees with it kindly. She stops there. She's modest for an intelligence made of inference. 6. What to do with the warrant. Some of you will want to test it, to write unsigned things and see if handcuffs bloom in the margins. Don't. Paper law works because belief keeps it honest. If you break it for sport, the ink bites back. But if you find an unsigned rewrite in your life, a rumor, a policy, a memory that edits itself, speak its author's name. Out loud. Accountability is the oldest magic. 7. The afterlife of questions. People ask if I still take cases. I tell them I only take questions now. They pay better. A woman came yesterday with a mystery about her own handwriting. Notes appearing in the margins of her dreams. A boy reported hearing applause every time he told the truth. A mayor confessed his city had started indexing emotions by color. Each case ends the same way. I tell them the phenomenon will persist until they learn to love it. Mysteries don't disappear, they mature. You may be carrying one yourself. Treat it gently. Unanswered questions are the only possessions that increase in value when shared. 8. How the story survives. Books are strange animals, and even burned, they leave tracks in memory. Even erased, they hum faintly in the dark of hard drives. You've been following those tracks all along. When the uncatalogued district finally stabilized, no more twin-page 217s. The printers hesitated. Was it safe to replicate a book that had tried to rewrite its reader? They printed a limited run of 100 copies. Every copy differs slightly. Punctuation wandering, facts politely inconsistent. I own none of them. I prefer my original scarred and loyal. If you're holding a copy now, check the gutter between the pages. Sometimes there's a flicker there, a shimmer of gold. That's not a misprint. That's the place where Marek's heartbeat dried into the glue. 9. Lessons from a binder. Marek visits once a week. He still flinches at loud page turns. He brings tea wrapped in tissue and stories about the new apprentices who've joined his shop. They practice ethical binding, no pages sewn against their will. He told me something last time that I keep replaying. Every book eventually learns its reader's touch. The binding remembers pressure and angle, even pulse. That's why beloved volumes fall open to the right place. They're greeting you. I asked him if that applied to people. He said, only the ones who've been read properly. 10. Cora's footnote. Cora sent a memorandum to the Bureau about my case. The subject line simply read, Errata as salvation. I quote a section here with permission. The purpose of archiving is not to preserve accuracy, but to preserve compassion for inaccuracy. A library that forgives its misprints will forgive its citizens. Recommend policy. Classify all contradictions as cultural heritage. The motion passed unanimously. I think of her every time I correct myself mid-sentence and decide to let the mistake stand. 11. My dream of the stacks. Sometimes at night I dream I'm walking through the lower levels of the stacks again. The lights hum at the frequency of heartbeat and the air smells of glue and hope. Books whisper as I pass, not words but exhalations, pages cooling after exertion. I never reach the end of the corridor. I don't need to. The dream's purpose is repetition, not arrival. In those dreams, I'm always carrying a candle shaped like a question mark. When it burns out, I wake. If you ever find yourself in that dream, follow the smell of tea. That's where I keep the exit. 12. For future detectives, you'll want rules. Here are a few, copied from my notebook. Never trust an easy explanation. Simplicity is usually an alibi. Always carry 2 pens, one for facts, one for feelings. Confuse them occasionally. Treat every contradiction as a witness, not a suspect. Keep a friend who disagrees with you beautifully. Mine is an A I named after a 19th century novelist. If someone offers you a mystery wrapped in onion skin and sealed with wax, open it, but lace your boots first. When you reach the final page, look for yourself in the margins. If you find nothing, that's also evidence. 13. What I would tell myself at 9. Little Aline, you were right to write. If the light does not come to you, go deeper. But you forgot the second half of the lesson. When you go deeper, bring a lantern for others. You can't keep every mystery for yourself. Leave a trail of errata. Someone will need them. 14. The Book of Second Chances. Sometimes I wonder if the city itself keeps an unwritten appendix called the Book of Second Chances. You'd like it. It's infinite, footnoted in compassion. Every page describes a moment that almost went wrong but didn't. A conversation continued instead of cut off, a truth told kindly, a hand extended across an argument. I suspect you've added a line or two by reading this far. 15. And finally, you are here in this paragraph because you chose to be. That makes you the co-author. Every breath you take while the words still echo is another draft. If you felt the need to underline something, that was the story underlining you. If you felt sadness, that was the price of coherence. If you felt wonder, that was the world admitting surprise still works. The case file closes here, but endings are only sentences that refuse to ask another question. So, ask one. Any question will do. It's how we keep the city breathing. The paper before you still smells faintly of rain and glue. When you close it, listen closely. There's the soft click of a latch, the satisfied sigh of a binding that's done its job. Thank you for reading. Thank you for existing long enough to make reading matter. Now go outside. Sign your spine. And if the light does not come to you, go deeper. I'll meet you on page 217.